There's a whole verse about Atlanta. Where most artists, they come from a place.
Yeah.
And they lean on that place. And that place becomes a part of their identity. Drake never had that. There is an identity in Toronto, but Drake never really leaned on it. He kind of came to America to kind of capture Black culture, Black American culture, using it to say that Drake is stealing from the culture.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it shows you how powerful Atlanta is. Gotta pivot. I know we little kids love this song.
Yeah, bro. We've been talking about it. It's crazy.
Little kids love Not Like Us. Kind of our videos of kids singing Not Like Us, but I think there is an important moment because it's warning kids about stranger danger.
Wow.
And it's like,
it's a popular stranger danger
kids
song.
are being educated from a young standpoint, like from a young age.
Wow.
It's wrong for a grown person to look at you this way.
Hey, you cooking right now, man.
Like it's wrong for a grown person to see you in a certain way.
Yeah.
And now, you got kids singing A minor.
Wow.
So now they know that, all right, this ain't right. What's interesting, you have Nipsey behind me.
Yeah.
And I covered Nipsey. What was so interesting is that I was in LA when Nipsey passed. I was covering the NAACP awards, and I had actually left the award show, and I was about to get on a plane, and I caught a text, and my friend said that they don't think Nipsey was gonna make it.
Wow.
I literally left the airport, left LAX, got a rental car, and drove down to Crenshaw, and covered. You saw the people in the community, just supporting Nipsey, things of that nature, and just you saw that love and that unity. Bloods, Crips, people from different sets, different gangs coming together after Nipsey passed. Yeah. And so LA hadn't really seen that moment since then, right? And so Kendrick kind of brought that same feeling back to LA. Yeah. And so me walking into the Forum, I'm seeing that same type of feeling that I saw when Nipsey passed. And when Kobe passed. Yeah. That same feeling of everybody coming together for one cause.
For sure. And to your point, I put Nip behind you for that exact reason. Because knowing today's subject matter on this episode and seeing what Kendrick did and seeing so many people, you got Hoover Crips and 60 Crips on the same stage. You got, to your point, people like YG, you got Bloods and Pyrus on the stage. Seeing that moment, I think, solidified Kendrick being our GOAT for our generation, because I think that personified hip hop, not just on a music level, but on that cultural level. And I think on that same sentiment, again, that's what separated Kendrick from Drake. And I think what made this whole pop out so dope, we weren't even talking about Drake. We were just enjoying the moment. Do you think it's safe to say, we already know Kendrick, he's the king of rap, but do you think it's basically safe to say that he's like LA's legend right now?
Of course. I mean, you gotta, LA they have a lot of legends. Yeah. Going back to NWA, Ice-T, Ice Cube, Dr. Dre, Snoop, Tupac. Even though Tupac is, he moved around. Yeah. He called LA home before he passed. And so he claimed LA in a lot of ways. Yeah. Claimed California in a lot of ways, being from, he had a lot of his upbringing came in the Bay Area as well. Yeah. But Kendrick, he's that, you only get like a few figures, I think, in hip hop that's kind of like been able to kind of galvanize communities like this. Yeah. And we saw Tupac do it. We saw Biggie do it. Yeah. Jay and Nas to a certain extent. And now we're seeing Kendrick do it on a larger scale. But just going back to what you were saying about the Bloods and the Crips and everybody being on stage at the ending of the show, what's interesting is that, it started out as this moment of, okay, this is a celebration of, in a sense, the ending of this rap battle between Drake and Kendrick. For sure. And it probably never gets to this point if Drake never does what I said. I tell, we had a conversation. I was like, Drake should just not react to Kendrick. He could do subtle disses. I think they've been doing subtle disses for years. It could have been on that level. But once Drake stepped out there with a diss track, multiple diss tracks, and then using social media as a way to kind of taunt Kendrick into releasing a song, I don't think Drake really saw the foresight of where the whole thing could lead. Right. And it just got progressively worse. And then we saw almost like a rap battle Super Bowl at the Forum, where you get an entire West Coast culture pretty much celebrating Kendrick's victory in this rap battle, but in a way that's going to unify these different sets and these different gangs within the city. And you would hope that hopefully it'll be something that could be duplicated, not necessarily from a rap standpoint, but just from a community standpoint in other cities, because there are gang issues in almost every major inner city in America. Wow. You know, what if the Chicago, you know, the gang issues in Chicago could unify in the same way in New York, even in Atlanta? Like, what if, you know, all the people who are beefing in these communities can come together and show unity in that way? And so to me, that was like the biggest moment out of everything, is that all these people who come from different places, who are basically fighting for the same resources, because I think when it comes to gang violence, is like people who are in these impoverished communities fighting for a lack of resources that they don't have, and so they kind of fight each other because it's not really much resources to survive. And so you know, you have this ongoing battle between these groups, and then to see everybody put it aside and come together on stage on Juneteenth, I think it was a magical moment, and also was probably one of the greatest moments in hip hop history.
For sure, man. And correct me if I'm wrong, AR. Was it when Kendrick, when he did that like special effect of morphing into OJ Nip, was that the Heart Part 4?
Heart Part 5.
It was the part 5.
The Heart Part 5. Because
because Dre tried to do
Dre did 6.
Yep. That's right. And seeing that, right, of Kendrick personified as Nip, which I thought was like a beautiful moment. Of course, we already know about Dedication on Victory Lap, iconic song. How do you think Kendrick is carrying on Nip's legacy right now? Because all I could think about on that stage was Nip, because I'm like, imagine if Nip was on that stage with Kendrick right now.
Yeah, so you know, you talk about Nipsey, and Mustard did a whole dedication to Nipsey, where it was like, you know, he had everybody put their cell phone lights up, and he played several tracks from Nipsey Hussle, and everybody, you know, in the arena just rapped along to Nipsey. But Nipsey's whole ideology was, let's bring all the gangs together for one goal. You know, and his whole thing was about entrepreneurship, pushing, you know, get rid of all the fighting. Let's come together, build from a business standpoint, and then, you know, put our minds together and for something that's progressive, instead of just, you know, going back and forth on the street for violence that doesn't really end in anything but death and bloodshed. So Nipsey's message was always something that that you would hope could be duplicated in other communities. And I think, you know, I think Kendrick was able to kind of bring Nipsey's dream or ideology to life, because I don't think we ever saw that with Nipsey while he was alive.
That's heavy.
Where he was, you know, what he was preaching was like, yo, let's put all this gang stuff aside and let's kind of focus on one goal of lifting up the community and making the community better. Yeah, because that was his thing. You know, he had businesses in Crenshaw. He was opening up a workspace where kids could learn about technology.
That was Vector 90.
Vector
correct?
90, yep, Vector 90. So you actually, when I was at Rolling Out magazine, we did a cover shoot with Nipsey Hussle at Vector 90.
Wow.
And this was like, you know, maybe a few months before he passed.
Wow.
And he kind of walked us through the whole building, and we talked about just like all the things that he envisioned of, you know, young kids being able to like learn different skills at this place called Vector 90. So we saw what Nipsey's vision was in terms of bringing everybody together. So hopefully this is something that can kind of restart that in a sense.